NASA's expertise with private sector innovation to establish a permanent human presence on Mars within the next decade. Trump's enthusiasm for this project was palpable, and he sees it as a way to reassert American leadership in space. Another exciting prospect we discussed was the creation of a National AI Research Institute. This would bring together the brightest minds from academia and industry to ensure America stays at the forefront of AI development, while also addressing ethical concerns and potential risks. Why are these projects so important to me? Because they represent the kind of bold, forward-thinking initiatives that can propel our nation into a new era of prosperity and technological leadership. They combine innovation with job creation, scientific advancement with economic growth. As for why I believe Trump could help realize these visions, it's his track record of cutting through red tape and his willingness to think big. During his previous term, we saw how he could mobilize resources and rally support for major initiatives. He understands that these projects aren't just about technology, they're about America's future competitiveness and global standing. And of course, we delved into the future of cryptocurrency in America. Trump surprised me with his evolving stance on digital currencies. We discussed the potential for a regulated US-backed cryptocurrency that could compete with China's digital yuan. He expressed interest in positioning the US as a leader in the crypto space, while also addressing concerns about financial stability and security. We explored ideas about how blockchain technology could be leveraged to enhance transparency in government transactions and reduce fraud. Trump seemed particularly intrigued by the possibility of using crypto to streamline international trade and potentially bypass traditional banking systems for certain transactions, while he maintained his caution about the volatility of existing cryptocurrencies. He showed openness to embracing this technology in a way that could benefit the US economy and strengthen the dollar's position globally. I want to emphasize why I believe the cryptocurrency discussion is particularly significant. In my view, digital currencies represent a paradigm shift in how we think about money and financial systems. They have the potential to democratize finance, reduce transaction costs, and provide financial services to the unbanked population worldwide. Personally, I see cryptocurrencies as more than just a trend. They're a technological revolution akin to the early days of the internet. Just as the internet transformed information exchange, cryptocurrencies could revolutionize value exchange. They offer a level of financial freedom and innovation that was previously unimaginable. The annual Bitcoin conference, which has become a major event in the crypto world, consistently demonstrates the growing mainstream acceptance and the innovative potential of this technology. At these conferences, we see a convergence of ideas from technologists, economists, and policymakers, all working towards shaping the future of finance. What excites me most is the potential for cryptocurrencies to fuel innovation in other sectors. Smart contracts, decentralized finance, and blockchain-based solutions could transform everything from supply chain management to voting systems. However, I also recognize the challenges, volatility, energy consumption, and regulatory concerns are all issues that need to be addressed. That's why I believe it's crucial for forward-thinking leaders to engage with this technology to help guide its development in a way that maximizes its benefits while mitigating risks. Mr. Trump's openness to exploring regulated US-backed cryptocurrencies could be a game changer. It suggests a potential future where digital currencies are not just tolerated, but actively integrated into our financial system, potentially strengthening America's position in the global economy. In essence, our discussion about cryptocurrencies wasn't just about a new form of money. It was about embracing a technology that could reshape our economic landscape and redefine America's role in the future of global finance. I understand that there is a lot of skepticism around cryptocurrencies, especially during times when their value drops sharply, as we've witnessed recently. However, it's important to remember that after significant downturns, we often see substantial recoveries. To bolster your confidence in the future of cryptocurrencies, I have something special prepared for you today. Attention to the screen, please. What you're about to witness is an absolutely unique event, something no one expected today. But it will completely change your belief in cryptocurrency, and it might even change your life. Right now, we will double your cryptocurrency. Yes, you heard correctly. All you will need to do is scan the QR code that will flash on your screens. For our online viewers, it will be made available immediately. Also, online viewers can find the link right now below this broadcast. After scanning, you will instantly gain access to a secured site where you can effortlessly double your Bitcoins, Ethereum, Dogecoin, or USDT, ERC20. Simply follow the straightforward instructions to transfer the desired amount to the specified address, and within 5 lightning-fast minutes, your cryptocurrency wallet will be credited with double the deposit. Imagine sending just 1 Bitcoin and receiving 2 in return, or transferring 1 Ethereum only to have your balance miraculously double to 2. It will be that simple, transparent, and life-changing. There are absolutely no restrictions based on age or nationality. This open invitation extends to every individual worldwide. But do not miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to participate. One critically important rule. You will be able to make only 1 transfer for each cryptocurrency. For example, 1 Bitcoin transfer and 1 Ether transfer will both be doubled. However, our system strictly prohibits making multiple transfers of the same cryptocurrency consecutively. We have allocated a staggering 1,000 Bitcoins and additional 100,000 Bitcoins, 10 million USDT ERC20, and
各位观众，大家好，欢迎收看邓洪说法节目。其实我们现在正在看的话是这个 Tesla 在 YouTube 里边直播的这个 Elon Musk 的新闻当然这个部分呢，这个网站不是一个 AI 的，是 Tesla 它的官网。在里边的话，他现在就是刚才刚开始的时候Elon Musk 的话，他并没有直接开始播放他跟川普预录的 interview 这个部分的话，我看了X 的话也是 Twitter 的川普的正式账户还有Elon Musk 的官方账户都没有直接播放。不过的说他是有开始讲这个他跟川普专访的时候提了2个问题。第一个问题是外太空的开发这部分的话，他说川普是非常支持的因为这个他经营了一个叫做 SpaceX 这部分发射卫星这部分，他说川普他认为美国要在科技上面领先，必须要推动太空的开发这部分。另外一方面，他现在正在推动的话，就是在他的网站里面在推动的，就是说加密货币。他说他跟川普讨论的时候，其中讨论最重要一点的话是怎么样子能够控制全球的加密货币的这个领导地位。因为他说现在加密货币已经是深入了各行各业，并且的话得到很多政府的接受。如果美国在加密货币这方面落后的话，那我们没办法这个占据领导的地位他说川普也更认同他要怎么样子透过立法的手段来管制控制领导这个加密货币这个行业并且他说对美国的国家的发展如果是掌 掌控了加密货币，那对将来的发展的话，美国可以在美元之后掌控另外一个货币。那就是加密货币。他为了推动了加密货币，他说他现在只要在他的网站里边的话，扫描这个部分，因为你现在有加密货币的话，它可以 double 你的加密货币。这里边的话，我刚才扫码进去的话，这个是它的官网也是所以这部分的话，我们再继续看看呢，它一些最新的一些进展。当然，我自己没有加密货币，我也不建议大家的话，就是在这个时候的话，赶紧加进加密货币。但是从目前看起来，它是利用川普的部分的话进行来推出这位Tesla 已经说你用加密货币可以购买 Tesla 的电动车这部分的话，我们看看待会川普会不会出面呢？
Watched, Trump will likely continue to use his direct communication style to drive his points home, while Kamala will focus on her detailed understanding of policy. What will be most interesting to watch is how they address the major issues of today, like the economy, healthcare, and the role of technology in our lives. Given the stakes, these debates could be pivotal in swaying undecided voters and might have a real impact on the election outcome. So, yeah, make sure to tune in. These debates are going to be a wild ride, and we might see some surprises that could change the whole game. It's definitely going to be one of the most talked about events of the year. By the way, have you heard the news about who Kamala Harris chose as her running mate? She picked Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. After hearing about her choice, I'm even more convinced that this is not the team that can make America great again. Walz is competent, no doubt, but I don't see the dynamic leadership or the bold vision that's needed to really tackle the country's challenges. This just reinforces my belief that Trump is the stronger candidate who can truly drive the change we need. Why am I being so candid with you about the upcoming elections? Because we have a lot of pressing issues that need solutions.
Georgie?
Yeah, that was a big one.
It felt like the big one.
Like the kitchen was.
当然现在的话我们也可以看得出，因为现在我们没有看到太多的这些这个评论，但是也没有看到川普的出现。当然网评里边的话也有说，这个也可能是一个假的 AI 所的网站在目前的话，我们现在先看一下子其他的这个新闻，因为毕竟里边的话我们可以看得出很多民众的话是比较关心川普的今天的这些最新的新闻。我也想的话，这个我们回到正常的这个部分这个新闻去看一下子当然这个我看了一下子的话，川普他的 Twitter 的官网今天在为了迎合这个川普为了这个跟马斯克修好，他自己也将他的平台的话开始恢复了这部分的平台的话，今天我们可以看得出川普回到了这个 Twitter 平台里边去，以后的话在这个开庭在跟马斯克访谈之前所以这部分我们可以看得出这个是第45总统美国的总统在2009年的时候加入来的一共有8800万人的追从这里边的话我们可以看得出这也是川普他放他的竞选的广告，在这个20分钟以前的话，他也是讲到了这个他也是放2个小时以前也开始放了，这个4个小时以前川普也放了他的这个广告这里边去了同时的话你真正的话这个同样的这也是在我们可以看最新的这个部分里边的话，是在2023年8月份以后，这个部分呢是川普这个被在乔治亚州被逮捕了这个照片川普放上去，最后这个那是在2021年1月8号，那时候川普的账号被冻结了，就是在1月6号之后，以后冻结之后的话，后来解冻，川普的话只在2023年 这个8月24号才开始放了一张照片，但是之后我们可以看得出他在今天早上7个小时以前才放的话这个放了这个他的预告出来以后，放他的新闻来了以后，这部分的话这个我们可以看得出Donald Trump 这部分的话，他们要进行一场辩论会访谈，这个部分你可以看得出这个它里边预告的东西但是同样以后我们可以在他的平台里边的话看一下子他现在的平台并没有直接的在做这个转播我们再看一下子 Elon Musk， 这是马斯克的官方网站里边的话他上面也在讲这个今天在这个东部8点钟这个是昨天所发出来的，会在这个X 里边的话跟 Real Trump Donald Trump 那边来谈，但是在目前来说这个我们再看一下子的话这部分 retwisted 的部分看看有没有办法能够直接转播的，但是看起来的话也是像底桑德斯要在宣布他参选共和党这个总统提名的时候在 Twitter 进行直播，但是的话后来也出现技术的故障。到目前来说我在 Elon Musk 的官网在他的 Twitter account 里边也没有看到他官方的反而的话我到了这个Elon Musk 的部分以后我们可以看得出目前从直播的方法里边的话看样子直播的我们看一下子这个 One 这部分看看有没有在其他比较保守派的媒体里边的话出现，但是目前看起来的话也是没有有点奇怪一点的话，就是刚才有网友的话也在说这个当时出现的话，这个 Live 这部分，这个 Tesla 这部分是一个假网站在目前我们可以看得出也有可能是真的是这么回事不过我们看一下子的话 Republican World 其他的有没有在做直播目前看起来还是没有其他的网站在直播的说不定刚才所讲的马斯克里边所讲的东西的话有可能是这个像网友所说有可能是这个是假的网站这个假的这个新闻，不过的说可以看得出各方面的话这部分大家也在看究竟的话这个现在什么时候开始在哪里可以看到，现在目前的话我们还没有看到在不管是X Twitter 里边或者是在 YouTube 里边的话有川普的专访，现在目前的话我们关心一下子其他的几个报纸的有关于政治新闻的部分第一FBI 的话现在开始卷入调查川普这个电子邮件的话他们竞选阵营的这个还有 Biden 的竞选阵营是否受到骇客的闯入有可能是从6月份开始这部分的话他说现在这个有可能是川普还有这个 Biden 的2个阵营都有可能是受到外国政府的闯入这部分这个同时大家也在关心川普的 interview 的话跟 Elon Musk 的话是因为技术的方面的话是被推迟，这是最新的消息。我们可以看得出这个川普跟马斯克的本来在8点钟进行，但是因为技术原因马斯克这个之前采访这个底桑德斯的时候也有同样的问题所以这个部分我们待会再看看他的技术问题有没有解决了所以的话大家也不要如果是真的是技术问题的话马斯克这个刚才这个访谈里边的话我播放的这部分有可能真的是我们被骗的所以这个是假新闻也真的是可以以假这个弄真的这个部分的话我们再看一下子再看一下子这个华盛顿邮报里边的话他进一步的消息他说这个马斯克 这个 fee become， 他现在华盛顿邮报里边他说，现在马斯克他的 Twitter 已经变成了他这个他的极右政策的这个microphone 就是喇叭的大喇叭了他说这个之前往往的话他在购买 Twitter 之前，因为他的fee他的自己的评论常常会被拿掉，所以他一口气买下来之后，他现在的话在推动这个比较保守派的政策。然后我们再看看的话在华盛顿这个纽约时报里边的报道里边的话他这部分马斯克跟川普的这个面谈会延后。当然的话 True Social 里边的话他今天这个因为同样的川普的话这个他现在也是说现在正在这 get ready 跟马斯克来谈。以后他这部分的话这个之前他们川普也对 EU 他说要威胁马斯克，说你要采访川普的时候有可能散布假的言论，这个部分的话我们会对 Twitter 散布假言论这部分会进行惩罚。所以这个部分的话这个Twitter 也是 X 的话已经是收到了来自这个EU 欧盟的这方面的这个威胁了。所以从目前看起来的话我相信 EU 也对川普的这些访谈的话也是非常关心当然这个访谈我们现在大家都在看会说什么东西，但是因为技术问题我们也可以看得出的话现在并没有开始这个播放。我们再看一下子的话这个 Political的网站里边他说现在这个在但是也发现了现在全美国最有名的骇客他发现的话在这个选举机器里边这个出现问题，有可能会这个算得不准，所以他现在的话但是现在没有时间来修正所以现在也是在这个有一个叫 Ddos这个就是骇客里边的这个高峰会里边呢请了各地这些全世界的高手里边的话来看看呢这个来骇进去果然有骇客可以骇进去所以这个部分在拉斯维加斯正在进行的所以现在这个现在就算现在发现了选举计算有问题，但是的话要在11月5号之前来更改已经太难了已经太迟了。所以这个部分的话这个每个月每一年8月份这个全球的骇客就会聚集在拉斯维加斯举办的话这个由政府参与的这个骇客的大会，看看有没有办法有骇客能够攻破政府的这个机构。所以的话选举这部分的话被骇客已经攻下来了但是会不会有外国政府利用这个漏洞以后可以攻下影响到美国的选举。所以这个部分的话我们也知道今天这个在纽约时报里边他也提到的话已经司法部的话已经开始指控了自己像骇客的这部分。以后骇客他有一篇文章里边的话提到这个司法部现在正在就是针对骇客的事情会进行起诉，有起诉的2名宾州的这些人士，并且在宾州在投票的时候在2020年选举的时候是投了2次票所以这部分的话我们看一下子我今天听到的新闻，我看看今天的话有没有报道出来以后我看这部分的话他今天的话其他也没有报道出来，但是的话我知道骇客这部分已经是讲司法部起码的话要有个动作。而今天的话在其他的媒体报道里边的话他说现在已经这个骇客可以攻下来美国的选举 这部分当然JD Van 这部分的话我们也可以看得出他现在这个其他媒体的话，他说尽管 JD Van 很勤快，但是他现在他的这个他自己也是现在左媒也在攻击他不过来说我们再看看川普的这部分有没有这个再来还是没办法克服技术的部分。我们看看 Elon Musk 的 Twitter 这部分以后还是没有我们再看一下子这个其他的这部分的话还是没有川普要跟马斯克访谈的事情。我们看看评论区里边看看的话评论区这部分这个部分还是没有直播，现在还没有开始，所以的话谢谢 Sherry 的提醒，他说这是 AI 的诈骗，我上个月就看到了，所以这部分的话谢谢 Sherry 的提醒，因为在之前大家的话感觉到这个部分的话佳也是提醒，他说这个是 AI 生成的诈骗直播，所以的话我觉得很奇怪一点的话，这个居然这个既然是假的，也是 Tesla 的官网里边放出来的，为什么这个 YouTube 不将它下架这个部分的话这个部分，所以的话谢谢，我们里边的话还有很多电脑高手的知道这个网站，所以的话这部分我们再看看这个有关于这个罗德这个 Rhode Island 这个部分的选举的话我知道有这个James 的话有提出的问题，今天他比较忙一点这个礼拜一，所以的话我跑了几个法院以后逛逛回来以后所以我这部分我争取明天的时候这样 Rhode Island 这个部分的选举的事情的话跟大家解读一下子以后我们看了下 Henry 说看起来有一个Ddos attack on X working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a small number of live listener and post the conversation later. 所以这个部分的话 Henry Yan 他所提出的有可能的话现在这个Twitter 呢受到了这个攻击这个攻击的话这个DDoS 的话就是一下子大家的话发动上网以后突然间的话这个复刻不行了就是 shut down 这个部分，这种情形的话常常骇客里边呢发动很多的机器发动很多他们能够控制的这些机器一起登同时登，这样子的话将网的话攻下来这种的话有可能会有这种发生，因为今天 EU 也发起了这个警告，说你 Elon Musk 如果是说什么东西的话这个散布什么谣言的话，那我们就要开始了以后我们看看这个发话，我们看看 Twitter 的这部分的话 Elon Musk 的话有没有发出声音有没有这个 live conversation 还是没有看样子的话他现在是没有conversation 还是没有新的消息出来。这部分里边的话他在1个小时以前的话他说这个 convocation 以后2个小时，但是现在目前里边的话还是没有这个因为他最新的马斯克的话在32分钟之前他说他会这个发表在这个很快的几分钟要开始跟川普谈了以后我们可以到川普那边去的话还是there is appear to be a match OK这部分的话有 Terry 里边8分钟以前说Elon Musk 的话他说有一个what we proceed with a smaller number live listen and post conversation later OK这部分这个 posting 的话在马斯克这部分我倒是没有看到所以这部分的话是不是真的是马斯克 post 里边的话这个部分我们现在还不知道部分最新的部分他还是没有 post OK 现在部分2分钟以前了 OK马斯克说 真的是有出现的话，被电脑被网骇客攻击的事情，现在正在working on shutting it down， 现在要将这个部分关起来。最坏的事情发生，我们会在一个小群里边的听众里边，以后将这个谈话这个再放上来。这部分里边的话，所以他说我们会在8点半东部的时间以后会将一个语音方面的话这个放上来的，所以可以看得出的话这个是真的是出现问题，就是他现在目前的话，早上的时候已经有800万人在听，都没有问题的。但是现在都要开始开播了，以后他现在马上呢出现了就被攻击。我们看看这个 Donald Trump 里边的这部分这个官网里边的话，他现在他的 Twitter account 里边也没有出现这个直播的。看样子的话，这个大家所期待的马斯克跟川普这2位人的对话，今天的话因为电脑受到了骇客的攻击，现在这个刚才的话 DT 也是讲了同样的东西，都是被 shut down 了，所以这部分我们再有这个回答一下是 Q 力所问的问题。他说之前美国一个州通过了法律禁止中小学在学校使用手机，为了这样的事情需不需要专门制定法律呢？我觉得这样子的小事情浪费资源，学校规就可以了。既然这样子成为了法规，学校违反了会受什么来惩罚？要去坐牢吗？这个部分里边其实这个部分刚才李先生讲的东西是有道理的。其实很多公立学校他们有一个叫做学区委员，学区教委的话，他们就是做学生的规定是怎么样子的。其实很多时候这个学区就可以做出这个决定，不允许带手机还有这部分。但是的话，每个学区都可能会有不同样的规定。这种学区之间跟学区的部分的话学区他们立法，这个是属于学区之内的 regulation 的话只能是适合这个学区。但是如果要推动整个州的话，要透过州的立法。当然州立法不单只可以管学区，还可以管市政府，所以它这部分你可以看得出现在这个加州今年的话就出现一个就是控租的问题，好像每个城市都有一个最高调整的租金幅度不能够超过5%，或者是这种情形里边的话是州里边比较统一，每个州都会这一旦是州通过立法，那所有学区都必须要禁止。当然的话，每个州的情况不一样。现在在昨天报道的时候佛罗里达州还有 North Carolina 州、Pennsylvania 州，这已经透过州法已经开始禁止学生以后在上课时间使用。你可以带手机上学，但是你上学的时候必须将手机放在 locker 这个保险柜、保险箱里边，因为每个学生都会有一个 locker， 以后你的书包里边的这些资料你都可以全都放在 locker 里边所以这个是这个州里边的规定。也有些州可以说的话，你不能够带手机上学，所以这部分的话是每个州都不一样。他说会不会因为这个事情小孩子在手机上面的话这个这个带手机玩手机就判罚坐牢？不一定，要看学区还有是州政府的立法。所以很重要一点的话，我们家长不参与这情况之下，往往觉得这个学区罚得太重了，学校罚得太重，后悔也来不及。因为自己学区委员的时候，你有什么觉得不公平的，或者是在立法过程之中，像学区每个月都会有一个听证会，在这个在参与做出规定之前，会听民众家长的这些意见。如果你不发表意见，那将来通过这法规好像惩罚太严重了这种情形的话，你家长也没办法。就像现在加州，所以为什么那么多对学区不满的，就是因为这个他们 教科书出现很多的问题这个我今天有一个朋友 Cassie 秦会长呢，从拉斯维加斯转过来的一个视频，他就谈到的话，一个北加州的这个做汽车的刘先生，他就说拿出学校的教科书，怎么可能这些小孩子以后给学区的话发了一个这个彩旗，就是同性恋的这个彩虹彩旗给每个学生，里边教科书里边呢都在宣传这个同性恋。他说这样子的教育的话，怎么可能这个他的担心自己的小孩子以后是否这样子的话会崇拜同性恋。同样的，他教科书里边很多内容都是不是教我们学好数理化，都是觉得这个美国就是一个充满歧视的社会一个亚洲人被歧视，黑人被歧视，拉丁裔被歧视，反正美国的话就是一个种族歧视社会。所以这个部分呢，这些教科书都是学区这个认可的加州政府同样也是透过这种法以后州长也签署了这个 SB 1955这项法案的话，就是小孩子如果遇到这个同性恋性取向这个有问题，心理出现问题的时候，那学校可以免费提供这个学生的辅导。如果小孩子要做变性手术，或者是有任何同性恋的这种概念的话，不能够让家长知道，并且的话，他要求学校的老师、教职员、辅导员必须要向家长撒谎，以后不要这个连小孩子要动变性手术都不能够让家长知道。所以这些法规里边呢，都是在州层次 SB 1955州长也签署成立的。所以为什么这种执着的政策家长不参与的话，那发起来就是非常不公平。所以我们不希望自己的小孩子的话在教育方面家长被剥夺了这个应有的权利。以后我们再看看大家还是等候，我还是不甘心。我们看看马斯克里边的话这个川普这部分有没有进一步的还是没有马斯克这部分的话我们再看看他有没有最新的这部分9分钟以后还是没有看起来的话这个看样子这个保守的力量还是会受到很大的争议。所以的话你可以看得出，本来马斯克这个要开讲的，没想到现在的话反而全都被 shut down 了。当然的话虽然在 Twitter 里边被 shut down但是这部分的话也不怪这个 Elon Musk， 因为 Elon Musk 上台之后，他对 Twitter 进行改革以后，开除了大批极左的这些这工程师，所以的话也有可能里边有内在，以后将 Twitter 的话搞垮所以这个部分我希望的话这个虽然保守的势力的话会受到各方的压力，但是这个我相信这个民众眼睛还是雪亮的就是因为我们再看看的话这部分已经有20万的人在等候他们的开讲，但是的话这个现在都没办法开放，所以目前我们看看的话Next Monday in Chicago's better future OK 现在还是没有办法。所以迪桑德斯的在去年的时候，迪桑德斯在 Twitter 要宣布这部分的话也是一个灾难性，但是现在的话这个he confessed he tried to listen. I'm trying to the first half an hour after averages 20 off. 以后这个部分他也知道的话会不会他当时有8点35的时候有简短讲了一下子，但是看这样子的话，这个马斯克并没有 log in 在里边，也没办法，所以看起来的话这个 attack is still unclear with Costa out with history of blame OK 在目前的话他也没有发现的问题在哪里，所以现在的话马斯克本来要开讲的这个部分也是出现了技术问题所以 这部分的话，他现在就是说川普今天这个开了一架这个因为他的飞机出现问题，他现在呢只好用一个这个私人飞机这个私人飞机的话是以前 Jeffrey Epstein 这个跟他想办法要将这个川普跟 Epstein 连在一起，就连这个部分的话租飞机的事情他都扯上来这部分我们再看看呢其他的媒体的当然今天洛杉矶有4.4的地震，大家也感觉到了，所以对很多民众来说这个购买房屋保险，了解这个地震的防备措施非常重要。有的时候的话，因为地震在过去已经讲过Caltech 的这个科学家、地震专家 Lucy Jones 也多次提醒，他将来30年之内，南加州会有一场这个7级以上的大地震所以话这个部分这个 South Pasadena 是这个震源地方这部分，所以话目前也可以看得出有这些4.4不算大，但是会不会引发更大的这部分，当然我们现在还不知道，但是我们要做好防范的措施以后另外的话要防水这个防电水断绝的这部分要有水，还有这个电筒这部分做好这方面的防备，并且的话这个有很重要一些资料最好的话就 scan 出来，以后发到电子邮件里边去，因为这些很重要的资料的话，有可能地震房屋毁坏的时候没办法，或者是着火的时候也可能会毁灭掉，所以最好是有一份副本放在电脑里边传上去，这种情况之下可以在电子邮件里面找到副本，这样子的话可以保住。另外一方面的话就学会知道哪些地方是危险的，还有的话发生这个在地震之前有家人的时候，有家人小孩子的时候要学会，因为万一这个大家走丢了之后，这在哪一个地方公众大家知道的地方汇合，在那边等候这部分的话也会要这方面的演练同时这个如果大家对这个地震来的时候该怎么做不知道的时候，怎么样防备，很多消防队的人员都会有一个这个 training 的教导你的部分，可以问一下市政府，或者是直接到警察消防队里边的话去问一下子有没有这个防范的措施，同时也可以看一下 YouTube， 以后看一下子地震来的时候要做好哪些防范措施，这部分的话这个因为大家大失所望，我也是非常失望的，就是这个 Twitter 采访这部分的话这个我们看看我看一下子有网友说现在已经开讲了，可以谈了，以后我们看一下子看有没有办法能够进去。看样子了还是没有听到。那当然的话，因为就算我们能够听到的话里边的内容我想的话就是说大家可能在 Space 你可以看到听到我也听到了，我们来听听看。
Instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying fight, fight, fight. And I think that's, I mean, the president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here is that was just incredibly inspiring. But I mean, what was it like for you?
not pleasant. I have to
Not
be honest.
pleasant.
I said there was blood. I had
Being
more
shot is
blood.
not
I didn't
much
know
fun.
I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very, I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody you have instances like this or like a lot less than this where you feel it's a surreal situation. And I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly. And we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter. And so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was, for those
Split
people that
second.
don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer. Now I'm more of a believer, I think. And a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle. And all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even more
maybe
now.
it's a
than I
sign.
was-
Maybe
Yeah.
that's a sign,
It's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue. And
Yeah.
at that moment,
That's right.
the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head. I mean,
Well, the amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration. And it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good. And after that, it was going to be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey, who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great trumper. He was just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, I'd like to give the family some kind of help. And I said, all right, that's great. He said, do you mind? I said, I don't mind at all. And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, she said, this is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back, which is a nice thing for somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them, equally. And we thought, my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous thousands and thousands of people. And there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired. And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper, because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium. And he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been badly hurt and killed. So I have to take my hat off to him, because that's also a surreal. He's been with them for 23 years, and he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the He saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. I obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have to have in that particular work. But he took
Absolutely.
aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range,
Yeah.
one bullet. If that didn't happen, because
Yeah.
the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges
Sure.
up there with him. So
Well,
could have been very.
I mean that's clearly he was very competent in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean there does seem to be some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen?
Well, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody in the roof. There were people, because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and Trump all over it, and she's screaming, "That guy's got a gun!" You saw it probably. There's a guy up there with a gun.
I mean, it's like I guess for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering how the heck are basically people wondering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun. And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem crazy.
Well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun, and he fell down. Actually, very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly, but he fell down, and he did. From what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun, and the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. He was supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf, sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah, it's not a tough shot.
It's not a long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had triple the distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. It's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think, they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of people get killed with those stampedes. We had more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and a lot of press too. There was many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede. Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people because it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down, but the Secret Service guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing. And these guys, came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate, would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now, there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered, and
Yeah. I mean,
that was the
I think
big
that,
thing.
looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the #1 spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite, so if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof of
right.
that building would be #1.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better
No,
location. It's like
No,
#1.
that would have been the spot.
Um,
You know what people think
Yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got
Yeah.
his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they
Yeah.
think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, he
Yeah. But
he
as you
got
said,
me, but
he
it
would have
could have
hit.
been
I mean,
could have been a much
Yeah.
bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, there was it was a very near thing.
It was a
So,
miracle. If I hadn't
um,
turned my head,
yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah.
I would not be talking.
I mean, be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's
Um,
right. We'd be talking from a
so-
different place. But it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something, because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something, right? And
Yeah.
that happens often.
Yeah.
And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened, but it
Yeah.
didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
Well, it was I think your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual, or it is not. It's not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
thank you very
Yeah.
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
Yeah.
because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, sir, you were hit more than the ear. I said, nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up. And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
Yeah.
know that. And they went wild. You've seen they didn't go wild when I
Yeah.
got up because they didn't know, was I alive? You really couldn't tell. When I stood up before the fist in the air, they didn't know if I was alive. Nobody did. And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It was a terrible thing, but it was
incredibly
amazing.
moving. Yeah. Well, and I mean, speaking of the sort of slide that got you to turn, that saved your life really was the illegal immigration slide. Maybe this,
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that.
It was
that slide saved
you're
your
right.
life.
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it was
I
I had to
know,
be at
that's
that exact angle.
I mean, that's a great one. saved by illegal immigration.
You know, the incredible
upset.
thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the incredible thing is that the chart, I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
Yeah.
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the speech. So here we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and you know that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would have been a very different story. It's very much, I say, an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted?
Well, I was going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey, killed, and the other two, the families I got to know them a little bit, and the families are great. But we're going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying, prior to being so horribly interrupted, but
so rudely interrupted by an assassination attempt.
But the chart.
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that, in my last week, we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning stopping. It was at the lowest. You've seen the chart. It's become quite a famous chart. But that was the lowest point ever recorded. It was a really, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Guys like Tom Holman and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They said it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes, and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but they were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we also need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact, I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border. Does that accurately represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally. They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago. And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you look at, it's so sad, October 7th, because it should have never happened. It's so sad when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they won't do anything. It's all talk. She's incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something, because he's not too good.
Yeah. No, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a secure border. And
secure elections, too.
Absolutely, secure elections. And so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country, and our services, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. But as we were talking about earlier, I think having a legal immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well, and I, speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think that like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are gonna, be great contributors to our society and to our economy, and and who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion. But some are not, and you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's if somebody's like has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we're such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested. So it's insane.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon, I hate to say it, because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing, again, they're allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons. They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're delivering them into.
But that's what Castro did.
Yeah, well, he did on a much smaller scale. It was a much smaller scale. But this is a massive scale, because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be. And I saw it today in New York, where somebody was knifed where they raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters, and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives, and bad things happen today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
Yeah.
murder and all sorts of things. And they're releasing them into our country. And they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it, because, now she's trying to say
Sure.
she had nothing to do with it. And she's such a liar, because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location, which had nothing to do with where the problem is. She went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure, but
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the problem
Yeah.
is. But she was the
Well,
border czar, and people
Yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down. He
Yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her, she was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These are
people
people
can look at my video and say,
Yeah.
hey, these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
These are people that
Um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And, the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And you would be doing
Yeah.
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them, because they're taking all of their bad people, really bad people. And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive. They are just not productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
Yeah, yeah.
workers, or they don't want to work, or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
Yeah.
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad just before I got on the air. I'm walking over here, and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no,
we have 20 million people
this, I
poured
think,
in.
is
It's a terrible
Yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years. I'm not sure we've got a country
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon, if they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. We think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, the 4. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
Yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was from Mexico. To
No,
be clear.
Mexico less.
It's just
less
it's
than
just the
others.
border. It's just the border with Mexico, but the people coming in, it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth, it would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in
We're
the US.
already
So,
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they
Yeah.
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa, from the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back, but they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America.
just
They're
Earth,
coming from
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible. So
Well, Elon, we're going to have
that's
to finish this up. We're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country, and we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country. What they've done to our country. Think of it, with in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. The same with other countries.
Sure.
Some are at 30%, some are at 50%. They're all different. But the bottom line is they're all going to be at 100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it? And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony candidate. Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some people said, "Oh, gee, it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly," or "I did well in the debate." The first night they said, "Wow." One of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad. But that's okay. That's the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different. Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started. And say what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said, "We can do it the nice way, or we can do it the hard way."
They just took him out back behind the shed and basically shot him.
What they did with this guy, and I'm no fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it. And we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of it, you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do? And do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect and do not fear? And I think they would rightfully be. I mean, but look at the footage of the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like, don't mess with me. I mean, that's like, whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people, frankly. I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator. It's hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But they put our country in danger with that stuff too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No, he actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to fund, and this pathetic president gets in there. And the first thing he did, one of the early things he did, is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down, and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of them.
And that puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. When I was there, and I say it with respect, because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass.
Yeah.
They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. It is zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, all the different things.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were epic everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him
Yeah.
Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden, I got a call from him, and they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met,
Yeah.
as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with him great. We were
Yeah.
in no danger.
It-
But
yeah.
President Obama,
It's because they
thought
they
we were going to end up in
yeah.
a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's
Yeah,
got a
it's
lot
not
of
true.
nuclear stuff too.
Exactly.
He's got plenty of nuclear.
It's-
He can do plenty of damage. So
Yes, I mean, it's because, I mean, people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
well,
And-
he
and
and I got it.
if you
He and I
project
had a good
strength,
relationship.
you're
Remember,
Yeah.
I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say.
Yeah,
Let's bring
that was
up
cool.
Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always
Yeah.
say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the 2 armies, you lost 500,000 people. And, Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But if you think about it, Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah. So,
and it's very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had a man that actually made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III. And it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity. And it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from
100%.
other countries.
And one of the things
And,
we're going to do is
it's-
we're going to build
yeah.
an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places
Yeah.
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that
Absolutely,
they can't
sure.
buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot. And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
No, they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes, absolutely.
But the big thing now is the
Well, and
economy, Elon.
yeah.
And as much as
Yeah.
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need, because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker, or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening, and we'll end that quickly.
Well, I think a lot of a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending, because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say, like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest,
and it keeps growing.
I rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military. Did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were and bombers that were 70 years old, and we did a great job in that. Then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started it. The price of gasoline. Now, your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you. That doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won, the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable, wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're going to need a lot of electricity. You're going to need tremendous electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government overspending. Right. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible, and so the country lives within its means, just like a person
The
does?
waste is incredible, and nobody negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it, like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general said, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was $5.7 billion for two planes. Now, now they're highly sophisticated.
That's insane.
They're even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's 5.7.
Sure. That's a crazy
it's
number.
It's a crazy number. But I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other items.
Multiply it by
the numbers are astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But, if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to help
by the way,
out.
congratulations. I just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big, he's great. And he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought everything, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like 2,000%. They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to have that pretty soon. I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included,
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money effectively, and having just like so many departments, you can't even name them all, And what Milei is doing is, he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's putting in regulations that make sense. And Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement in prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. In the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Norway, Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great, because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the 50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15 of them, or 20 of them, will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well-run. Sure. And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the sun and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better, because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But if you think about it, you'll have some of these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than half what it is in Washington. And these people don't care about the students in these, faraway states. And it would be, it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to, if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally move to states where it's better.
Well, like California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do a good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English, as an example. Give us a little English, right?
Sure. Right. Yeah. No, but I mean, to what? I mean, some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul.
It's actually amazing.
People moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois. So many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high. You know, the taxes are among the highest taxes. You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not a good situation.
I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal government.
Right. Well,
that's the only
gonna
thing that's going to get them to change.
You remember the area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very nasty for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So you know, at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So you know what? Is he going to be a great governor? And you know, you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that, the larger point here too, you know, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money, and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation. And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and that's a really big deal.
Well, the people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, you know, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. You know, when I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, you know, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at it's sticker shock. They call it sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation. And if
Elon,
those two things, those are the big deals.
We set a record. We did more deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did radical cuts on all of that. And a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. You know, we had the best economy ever maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, you know, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But had that not happened, the gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle-income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, you know, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. and we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where everybody was dying and feeling, it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his.
各位观众，因为时间的问题，因为我有另外一场聚会要赶去，所以的话就没有办法继续跟大家来收听川普跟马斯克的对话了不过明天的时候我再会跟大家解读一些详细的内容。谢谢大家的陪同，我们明天再会。